Have you ever stopped to think why women hide their true desires, as if it's a dangerous secret too powerful to reveal? The feminine desire has always been a mystery, and the more it's denied or suppressed, the darker and stronger it grows. Carl Jung believed that this hidden side of desire doesn't disappear. It merely changes shape, slipping into the shadows until it's impossible to ignore. You might have felt it yourself. Behind every word, behind every silence, there's a secret longing that refuses to be seen, but always leaves traces. It's time to confront the instinct they hide. It's not just a passing whim. It's a force that shapes decisions and shatters boundaries. And what you're about to see will forever change how you understand the dark side of female desire. There's something almost magical in the way women can wear a mask of innocence. This mask is not just about pretending to be sweet or harmless. It's an instinct that has evolved over generations, a protective layer that hides the true intensity of their desires. Carl Jung would call this the persona, the outward face we show to the world. For many women, this persona is crafted to perfection: a smile, a gentle tone, an air of vulnerability that makes others want to protect them. But beneath that carefully constructed image lies the true source of their power: desire. Desire is not always about passion or lust. It's a need for validation, for security, for connection. But when it's hidden, it becomes even more powerful. And so the mask of innocence becomes the perfect tool, a way to navigate a world that doesn't always accept the full force of female longing. In everyday interactions, this mask might seem harmless. A woman might tilt her head just so, letting her hair fall across her face in a way that seems accidental. Her voice might soften, her laughter might come easily. These are small gestures, but they're powerful, because they signal one thing: I am harmless. I am sweet. You can trust me. Yet Carl Jung taught us that what we repress doesn't disappear. It grows stronger. Behind that sweetness is a hunger that few ever see. It's not malicious, but it's real, and it can shape how she chooses partners, how she tests their loyalty, how she measures her own worth. The mask of innocence is a form of camouflage. It's how women protect themselves in a world that often punishes them for wanting too much. But it's also how they learn to wield that desire like a secret weapon. In a relationship, this mask can create a dance of contrasts. The woman might be nurturing and kind, but also unpredictable. She might shower her partner with affection, then pull away without warning. It's a push and pull that can leave even the strongest men questioning themselves. Carl Jung would say, this is the anima, the feminine energy within all of us. It's fluid, changeable, and deeply tied to the unconscious. When a woman taps into this energy, she can make a man feel like he's the center of her world, or like he's lost in a maze of her making. The mask of innocence isn't about deception. It's about survival. It's about adapting to expectations while holding on to something deeper and more dangerous. It's the way women balance the need to be loved with the fear of being too much. But here's the thing. This mask is fragile. It can crack under the weight of real emotion. When it does, what emerges is raw and real, and often terrifying. Because in those moments, you see not the gentle persona, but the dark side of desire that Carl Jung spoke of. The part that wants more, that tests boundaries, that demands to be seen. For many men, this is both thrilling and frightening. They're drawn to the softness of the mask, but they sense the storm underneath. It's a paradox, and it's exactly what makes the game of desire so intoxicating. Women too feel the tension of this mask. They know the power it holds, but they also feel the weight of pretending. The longer they wear it, the more they risk losing touch with what they really want. And when the mask finally slips, it can be both a liberation and a reckoning. Carl Jung believed that facing our shadows is the only way to be whole. The mask of innocence is a shadow, a beautiful one, but a shadow nonetheless. To truly understand women's desires, you have to see beyond the mask. You have to look for the glint of hunger in the softness of their gaze, the flicker of wildness in their gentle touch. Because when the mask comes off, the dark side of desire is no longer hidden. It's there, in the open, and it changes everything. This is the first step in unraveling the instinct they hide. And once you see it, you'll never look at a gentle smile the same way again. The gentle gestures and the silent signals are just the surface. Beneath them, there is a dance of control and surrender. This is where the hidden instinct comes alive, pushing and pulling in ways that defy logic. Carl Jung believed that within every woman lives a polarity, a tension between what she shows and what she truly wants. In those quiet moments, when she leans closer or looks away, she's not just testing a partner, she's testing herself. The dark side of desire doesn't shout, it whispers. It flickers in a glance, in the way her fingers touch her lips, in the way she pauses before answering. There is power in that pause. It's a space of possibility, a moment where she decides how much of her shadow she's willing to reveal. And for those who can read it, it's an invitation or a challenge. Some might see this as manipulation, but it's something deeper. It's an instinct honed by centuries of learning what it means to be desired, but also to be judged for wanting too much. So the dance becomes her way of balancing that hunger with the need to be safe. A smile can hide 1,000 doubts. A sigh can be the echo of a craving she doesn't dare to voice. Jung taught that these unconscious signals are not accidental. They're part of the human story, the parts of us that we refuse to name, but that shape everything we do. A woman might not even know she's sending these signals. They're as natural as breathing, but they shape the space between two people, making it charged with unspoken questions. In this dance, men find themselves both captivated and confused. The signals are there, but they're layered. A hand on the neck might be a sign of comfort or a sign of vulnerability. A tilt of the head might be curiosity or challenge. The mystery is part of the pull. It keeps him coming back, trying to decode the language she doesn't speak out loud. For women too, there's a thrill in this dance. It's a game, but it's also a confession. In those moments when she lets her guard down, when her lips part slightly or her breath quickens, she's revealing more than she intended. And that's what makes it both powerful and terrifying. She's showing the part of herself that's usually hidden, the part that Carl Jung would say is closest to the soul. This dance doesn't end when a relationship becomes real. In fact, it becomes even more intense. The closer two people get, the more these hidden instincts shape how they connect. A gentle touch can become an anchor, a look can become a promise, and if the signals are ignored, they become a source of pain. The ache of being seen but not truly known. Understanding this dance is not about playing games. It's about learning to see what's really there. The gentle gestures are real, but they're not the whole story. Underneath, there's a current of desire that can't be denied. It's a force that shapes not just love, but identity itself. And once you see it, you can't go back. There's a certain power in silence. The space between words can say more than any confession. For women, this silence is a refuge, a place where they can feel their desire without having to explain it. Carl Jung believed that silence is where the unconscious speaks. It's in the pause between thoughts, the stillness between breaths, that the real truths emerge. In these quiet moments, A woman might feel the weight of her own longing. She might feel the pull of something she can't name, something that lives in the shadow, waiting for her to acknowledge it. The world tells her to be gentle, to be patient, to be good. But in the silence, there's no one to impress. There's only the echo of her own heartbeat and the memory of every time she wanted more. This silence can be a form of rebellion. It's a refusal to put everything into words. It's a way of keeping a part of herself untouched by the expectations of others. In this silence, she can feel the raw edge of her own hunger and decide whether to let it show. For men, this silence can be maddening. It's a space they're not invited to enter. It's a locked door with no key. They might try to fill it with words, with promises, with touches. But sometimes the only thing to do is to respect it, to understand that the silence itself is a language. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious is not empty. It's full of images and symbols, of memories we don't even know we carry. In the silence, these symbols come alive. A woman might remember the first time she was told to be quiet, to hide her feelings, to smile when she wanted to scream. She might feel the echo of those moments in every silence she keeps today. This is why the dark side of desire is so powerful. It's not just about what a woman wants. It's about everything she's been told she can't want. In the silence, these truths become clearer. They rise to the surface like shadows in the moonlight, impossible to ignore. For women, reclaiming this silence is an act of power. It's choosing not to explain, not to justify. It's holding onto a part of themselves that doesn't need to be shared. It's a way of saying, "This is mine. This is who I am, even if I never say it out loud." For those who love them, the silence can be a gift, if they're willing to see it that way. It's an invitation to stop talking, to stop guessing, and to just be present. Because in that quiet space, there's a chance to see beyond the mask, beyond the dance, beyond the careful gestures. To see the truth of a woman's desire, you have to be willing to sit in the silence, to feel the weight of it, to understand that sometimes what's not said is more powerful than any word could ever be. And when you do, you might find that the dark side of desire is not something to fear, but something to honor. It's in the spaces where no one else looks, the places where she keeps her secrets and her fears. This is the hidden sanctuary of her mind, the part she guards so carefully. Carl Jung called it the personal unconscious, the storehouse of memories, instincts, and impulses that shape who she is, even if she doesn't realize it. In this quiet inner world, the shadows of desire take root. It's not about what she says out loud. It's about what she can't bring herself to admit, even to herself. The dark side of her desire lives here, in the thoughts that flicker across her mind when she's alone, in the feelings she tucks away because the world has told her they're too much. For a woman, these secrets are both a burden and a source of power. She may not speak them, but she feels them. She feels them when she's lying awake at night, wondering if anyone truly sees her. She feels them in the moments when she almost says something, but then bites her lip and stays quiet. These are the truths that shape her life, whether she shares them or not. Carl Jung believed that to understand someone, you have to see the shadows they don't talk about. These shadows are not weaknesses. They're the parts of her that have been hidden for so long that they've grown wild and powerful. They're the parts that can make her unpredictable, or magnetic, or heartbreakingly tender. For the men who love her, these secrets can be confusing. They might sense there's more beneath the surface. A hidden intensity that only comes out in glimpses. They see it in her eyes when she's lost in thought, or in the way she hesitates before speaking. And they wonder what it would be like to really know her, to see all of her, even the parts she tries to keep in the dark. That's the paradox. The closer you get to these secrets, the more you realize that they're what make her whole. They're not flaws to be fixed. They're not things to be feared. They're the raw, unfiltered parts of her that have been waiting for someone who can hold them without judgment. It's here, in the shadows, that real intimacy begins. Because once you see the dark side of her desire, once you understand that it's not something to control but something to honor, you start to see the woman herself in a new light. And that changes everything. It also raises a question for each of us. Do we dare to look at our own hidden instincts? Do we dare to admit the parts of ourselves we've kept buried for so long? If you're ready to explore your own inner world, to integrate the parts of yourself that you've kept in the shadows, there's a simple yet powerful tool that can help. That's why I created the SIM method, a way to illuminate your mind, integrate your shadow, and find inner peace. Just 5 minutes a day, and you'll begin to see the clarity that's always been there. The link is in the pinned comment below. Returning to her inner sanctuary, remember, the dark side of her desire is not a sign of brokenness. It's a sign of life. It's the heartbeat of a soul that refuses to be silenced. And if you can respect that, if you can sit with it without flinching, you'll discover a kind of connection that few ever find. This is where the real magic of understanding begins, not in trying to change her, but in being willing to see her, shadows and all, because that's where the truth lives. And it's more beautiful, more dangerous, and more real than any perfect image could ever be. There's a certain power in the way a woman's eyes can hold a story without saying a word. It's a quiet, magnetic force that can stop you in your tracks. This is where the dark side of her desire comes alive, not in the things she says, but in the things she shows with just a glance. Carl Jung believed that our eyes reveal what we try to hide. They're the windows to the soul, but they're also the windows to the shadows. A woman's gaze can be soft and inviting, but if you look closely, you'll see the questions and the challenges hidden there. It's not just about seduction. It's about testing boundaries, seeing if you're strong enough to face what lies beneath. When she looks at you, she's not just seeing you. She's measuring you. She's wondering if you're the kind of person who can handle the fire she's kept inside for so long. That fire is the dark side of her desire, the part of her that refuses to be tamed, no matter how carefully she masks it. You'll notice it in the way her eyes linger a second too long, or in the way she looks away just as you think you've caught her. It's a dance of vulnerability and power, of showing and hiding, and it's a dance that can be intoxicating, because it's real. For many women, this gaze is their shield and their sword. It's how they protect themselves from a world that wants to define them. But it's also how they invite you in, if you're willing to see past the surface. Because in that look, there's an unspoken truth. I'm not just who you think I am. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious is always speaking, even when we're silent. In a woman's eyes, you can see the stories she's never told, the moments of heartbreak, the nights of doubt, the dreams she keeps locked away. And if you're patient, if you're willing to sit in that silence, you'll start to see the shape of her soul. This doesn't mean you'll always understand her. The dark side of her desire isn't something that can be mapped out in simple lines. It's fluid, shifting like water around the rocks of her daily life. One day, it might be soft and warm. The next day, it might be fierce and demanding. And that's exactly what makes it so compelling. For her, The gaze is a form of honesty. It's the one place where she can let the mask slip, just for a moment. And in those moments, you see her as she really is. Not the perfect image she shows the world, but the raw, complex woman who lives behind the smiles and the careful words. This can be both thrilling and unsettling, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start to realize that everything she does, every small gesture, every pause in conversation, is a part of this hidden dance. It's a way of testing if you're ready to go deeper, if you're ready to face the parts of her that she keeps in the dark. For women, this look is a risk. It's a choice to be seen in a world that often punishes them for wanting too much. But it's also a choice to claim their power, to refuse to be just another pretty face in a world of easy answers. It's a declaration. This is me. This is what I want. Can you handle it? For the men who see it, it's a call to step up, not to control or to fix, but to witness, to stand steady in the presence of a desire that is older than any story, more powerful than any game. And in that steady gaze, something shifts. The masks drop, the walls crumble, and what's left is something that can't be faked. Carl Jung would say that this is the moment of true connection. It's not about words or promises. It's about the willingness to see and be seen. In a woman's eyes, you can find a universe of longing and courage, a map of everything she's been and everything she could become. The dark side of her desire is not something to fear. It's a part of her strength, a part of her wholeness. And if you can meet it with respect and honesty, you'll discover a depth of love and intimacy that few ever find. This is what makes the gaze so powerful. It's not about seduction. It's about truth. It's about seeing the parts of her that she's been taught to hide and choosing to stay anyway. Because in that choice, in that quiet acceptance of all that she is, you find the real magic, the chance to truly know her, shadows and all. Sometimes, the dark side of desire doesn't show itself in words or glances. Sometimes, it's in the way she moves, the small, almost unconscious gestures that reveal what she's feeling deep inside. This is where the body speaks what the mouth can't say, and where the truth of her longing becomes impossible to deny. Carl Jung believed that our bodies carry the memories of our lives, the instincts of our ancestors, and the silent language of our unconscious mind. For women, this is especially true. Every step, every tilt of the head, every breath she takes carries the echo of that hidden world. And if you're paying attention, you can read those signs like a secret script. The way she crosses her legs when she sits, the way her hand lingers on her neck when she's thinking, the way her shoulders tense or soften when you're near. These are not random movements. They're part of a conversation she might not even know she's having. It's the conversation between her outer self and the inner world she keeps so carefully guarded. For her, these movements are instinctual. They're a way to express what she's been told she shouldn't say out loud. They're the body's way of saying, this is what I want. This is what I fear. This is what I can't admit. And in those small movements, there's a kind of honesty that words can't always match. For men, these signs can be confusing. They might notice the way she leans in when she's interested, or the way she pulls back when she's afraid. They might feel the shift in her body when she's torn between wanting and resisting. It's a dance that can be as thrilling as it is unsettling, because it's real. This physical language is the dark side of desire made visible. It's the part of her that doesn't care about rules or expectations. It's raw and instinctive, driven by something older than logic. And when you see it, you see her in a way that few people ever do. Carl Jung would say that this is the anima in motion. the feminine energy that lives in all of us, expressed through the body in ways that can't be faked. It's the part of her that's wild and untamed, that refuses to be boxed in by polite conversation or pretty words. And when she lets it show, even for a moment, it's a glimpse into something both ancient and alive. For a woman, moving with this kind of honesty can feel dangerous. The world has taught her to be careful, to be small, to take up less space. But there are moments when the body doesn't listen to those lessons. Moments when the hips sway with an unconscious confidence, or when the breath comes faster than she intended. In those moments, the dark side of her desire takes over, and she becomes fully herself. This doesn't mean she's always aware of it. Often she's not. These movements are the language of the unconscious, speaking through the body in ways she might not even recognize. But they're there, waiting for someone who's willing to see them for what they are. For those who know how to watch, these gestures are more honest than any confession. They're not filtered through social niceties or polite conversation. They're direct, immediate, and alive. And they're an invitation, not to possess, but to witness. Because when you see the way she moves, you see the story she's been living all along. You see the girl who learned to be careful, and the woman who learned to take risks. You see the weight of every expectation she's ever carried, and the freedom she's always craved. This is the power of the dark side of desire. It's not about seduction in the way movies show it. It's about the quiet moments when her body betrays her secrets, and she lets it. It's about the way her shoulders drop when she feels safe, or the way her lips part when she's about to say something that matters. Carl Jung believed that real intimacy comes from seeing the whole person, the conscious and the unconscious, the light and the shadow. When you learn to read the way a woman moves, you start to see the parts of her that words can't reach. You see the truth of her, not just the image she shows to the world. And in that truth, there's a kind of beauty that can't be captured by any script or story. It's the beauty of a soul in motion, of desire that refuses to be hidden. It's the dance of a woman who is more than just her words. She is her gestures, her silences, her shadows. So when you see her move, watch closely. Because in those small movements, there's a universe of longing and courage, a map of who she is beneath the careful smiles and polite words. And once you've seen that, you'll never look at her the same way again. At the end of this journey, one thing becomes clear. The dark side of desire isn't a flaw in women. It's a part of their nature that too many are too afraid to see. Carl Jung showed us that the unconscious isn't something to be feared or dismissed. It's a wellspring of truth, a source of power that lives beneath the surface of every smile, every silence, every carefully chosen word. When we talk about the instinct they hide, we're not just talking about women. We're talking about the raw force of life itself, the part of each of us that wants, that craves, that dares to break the rules in search of something real. And if there's one thing I believe, it's that denying this instinct doesn't make it disappear. It makes it stronger. For too long, society has told women to play it safe, to be sweet, to be small, to be good. But desire doesn't care about those rules. It doesn't live in polite words or perfect smiles. It lives in the shadows, in the moments when her voice breaks or her hands tremble or her eyes flash with something that can't be explained away. As a channel, we're not here to repeat the same tired cliches. We're here to challenge them. We're here to pull back the curtain on what's real, even if it's messy, even if it's uncomfortable. Because I believe the truth is worth the risk. I believe that when you stop trying to control desire, when you start listening to it, feeling it, honoring it, you discover a strength and an honesty that no mask can match. So if you've made it this far, here's what I want you to take with you. Don't be afraid of the dark side of desire. Don't shrink away from it because it's intense or inconvenient. Instead, let it wake you up. Let it show you the places in yourself and in the women you love that are more alive than anything else. Because in the end, this is what sets us apart. Not the perfect image we show to the world, but the shadows we carry and the fire they feed. It's in those shadows that we find our truest selves. And it's in facing them that we finally come alive. And that's what I believe. That's what this channel stands for. Truth, even when it's hard. Depth, even when it's uncomfortable. And the unwavering conviction that if you're brave enough to look at the dark side of desire, in yourself and in the women around you, you'll find something worth fighting for. Thank you for being here. Thank you for daring to see the truth. Let's keep going deeper together, because that's where the real transformation begins.